Hello, this is Kate from dailytarotgirl.com, and this is your weekly tarot card reading. And for this week's reading, I'm using the 78 Tarot Nautical, Tarot of the Water. And before I get into the reading, I just want to let you know that my 4-week tarot course, it's called The Daily Tarot Girl's Guide to Intuitive Tarot Reading, is now open for enrollment. This course starts on April 5th. April 4th, but you can sign up now. So if you're interested in my course, I'm going to put a link to it in the description below this video, and I hope to see you in my class. Okay, so the first card we have here represents Monday and Tuesday of the upcoming week, and here we have the Hierophant, and this is an interesting version of the Hierophant because it shows a woman, and there's not too many decks that show a woman in the Hierophant role. So the Hierophant, in one sense of this card, it's about following somebody else's rules, but it's also about following someone else's formula. So the opposite of this card would be going out on your own into the world with your own following your own moral compass, making your own rules, and figuring everything out on your own. And while that's awesome to be able to do that, it can be really, really hard. It can be time consuming, and there's something to be said for learning from people who have walked the path before you, and learning from their mistakes and using their formulas and their way of doing things as a way to save yourself time and energy and money. So there's, a positive side to the Hierophant and a negative side, like with all the cards. So I feel like this card is warning us, or not warning us, it's inviting us to open ourselves to learn from others, and don't reject someone else's formula or way of doing things, or someone else's rules, just on principle of wanting to reject someone else's rules. So be open to how other people do things and be willing to try those things to see if they work for you, but at the same time don't get totally seduced and sucked into following someone else's steps and someone else's plan because you're too lazy to make up your own. So there's this happy medium, and I think that the Hierophant is kind of challenging you to find that happy medium between doing your own thing and learning from others, creating your own rules, but also following other rules, that work for you. And yeah, so I'll leave it at that. I might come back to this one, but I love that card. She's really pretty. Okay, so the middle of the week, Wednesday and Thursday, we've got the Seven of Swords. And I really like the Seven of Swords because the Seven of Swords is a tarot deck that a tarot card that I always struggle to interpret. I have a hard time with the Seven of Swords. And in this particular deck, I find this card really easy to interpret. So with this Seven of Swords, it shows someone who, it basically is two-faced, someone who has two sides to themselves and may present, as a beautiful woman, but underneath she's this terrifying undead or dead skeleton. And I think that there's two messages with this card. Number one is always, I don't want to say always question things, but things aren't always as they appear, and people around you may not be being authentic and honest with you all of the time. And this is something to just kind of consider, and it's usually something that you can sense anyway. So I don't want to make you feel paranoid, but this is the kind of thing that you usually kind of pick up on when you meet someone. They might seem really nice and wonderful, but you just get this weird feeling. So this is about really kind of listening to your gut here and listening to your instincts when you're working with people, when you're meeting people. The other side to this card is that just like other people around you have two sides to them and may not be honest, you also have two sides to you, and you're not always honest with yourself. about these two sides. So this is kind of, the idea of having a shadow. So a dark side and aspects of yourself that you probably reject and repress because they're, maybe not acceptable. Other people don't like them. So I feel like this card is about being aware of that within ourselves. So being aware of our dual natures, our dual personalities, and seeing ourselves as a kind of like a holistic being that has both light and dark sides, good and bad, and kind of accepting ourselves as that whole holistic being rather than just celebrating the light inside of ourselves. So acknowledging all of it. And I'm going to come back to this card because I think I might want to say something else, but I want to move on to the third card. So this is the card of the weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I love this card. This is probably one of my favorite cards in this deck. It's the Devil, and if you look at the image, it's these people and they're like hooked up to this thing and they're texting. they're totally distracted though. That's what the key is with this card, is they're completely distracted and they're not aware of what's going on. And that's what the Devil is about. It's about not being fully aware of things. So feeling restricted and perhaps controlled by something, or stuck or powerless, but not really being fully aware of yourself and what your role in it is and how much power you actually have that you're not using. So that is essentially what the Devil is about. So this weekend, I feel like there's so much with this card. There's so many different ways I could go with it. Be aware of distractions this weekend. That is your number one enemy by the end of the week, is distractions. So I think making a conscious effort to be fully present and be, in the moment and be engaged in what you're doing, and notice when you're distracted and notice what distracts you the most. So if you're always looking at your phone, that's probably a distraction. I know for me, like when I'm working at my computer, I always go on like Facebook or check my email or go on YouTube, and I feel like that's always, like, the internet is just always distracting me, pulling me away from things. So I think this weekend is about being aware of what you get distracted by, and maybe just challenging yourself to go 1 day or 2 days where you don't engage in those distractions. So where you just, turn your phone off for a whole day or something like that. Another thing with this card is that you are so much more powerful than you realize. And when you can expand your consciousness and harness your energy and focus, that is when your life takes on a whole different meaning. Your life will totally change. And with this card, we see people who are focused, because they're focused on what they're doing. They're texting or something. So they're totally focused, but they're focused in kind of like an unproductive way. They're focused, but they're totally not cognizant of anything that's going on around them. And really what you want to do is be able to be focused in a more less distracted way. So I think that's the challenge of the weekend. How do you focus without being distracted? So how do you make it so that thing that you're focused on doesn't force you to put blinders on to everything else that's happening around you? Because that's when you can be taken advantage of, is when you're just not paying attention. Okay, so I actually think there's it's interesting how these two are connected. It's almost like you're not going to notice the dark underbelly of things if you're just totally not paying attention. Okay, so I'm gonna put these 3 cards together, and I invite you to share your own ideas and interpretations in the comments below. So if you have your own take on these cards, I feel like the beginning of the week is about being open to someone else's plan or advice, but not buying into it completely. 7 of Swords, middle of the week, it's about being aware. So listening to your gut, being aware of other people's motives, and but also being aware of your own dark side and your light side and your own kind of, your shadow self. So being aware of that. And then with the devil, again, that theme of awareness comes up again. So being aware, being able to turn off distractions, being able to really come home to yourself and recognize how powerful you are when you let go of distractions, because distractions act as like these little siphons that just like siphon your energy. They siphon your attention, your time, your energy. And the more distractions you can let go of and the more you can kind of simplify your life, the more power you'll have at your disposal. And the more you can direct that power and attention to things that matter to you and things that are important to you. So yeah, all in all, an interesting week. I find like, I think this week is going to be not necessarily an easy week, but a week where you're really challenged to be present and to be aware and to dig deep and be more conscious than you normally are. So this isn't the week to sleepwalk through, your activities and your day-to-day things. You really want to have your eyes open, you want to be paying attention, and you want to be fully cognizant and aware this week. So that has been your tarot card reading. My name is Kate, and you can find out more about me and about learning how to read tarot on my website, dailytarotgirl.com. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful week.